Okay, YouTube algorithm, I've dabbled with just comic book stories, but it is clear that you don't want that. You want comparisons, you want feats, maybe you want obscure British references.
It's hotter than the sun!
Not sure on that one. And what YouTube wants, I deliver. Today on 6 Degrees, we're looking at Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, played by Ben Affleck, yes, in the 2003 film, and Charlie Cox in the 2015 Netflix series. Affleck, who is also rumoured to maybe appear in Deadpool 3, along with Jennifer Garner's Elektra. Ryan Reynolds apparently just hoovering up all the old Fox superheroes for it. So let's see how The Man Without Fear in the movie and the TV show compares to the source material. We've seen some impressive feats, no, not that one, this one, on screen, but is there anything more impressive on the page? Now the interesting thing about Daredevil is that the movie and the TV show have gone different ways from the comic book. One upped his power set a bit and the other made it more grounded in reality. I think you know which one is which. So let's start with the comic version of Matthew Murdock so we can compare both adaptations. So Matt Murdock, as we know, got blinded by some radioactive material when he was a kid. The radioactive material giving him superhuman senses and a kind of radar sense to see everything around him. The same ooze also apparently spawned the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Hero Turtles as we called them in the UK because ninjas were too violent. I read that he can now also control his nervous system and that it allows him to operate at peak human strength and speed, plus gives him superhuman agility, but I couldn't actually find any confirmation of that in a comic. Just that he's basically what would happen if an Olympic gymnast could also run as fast as an Olympic sprinter and fight like a heavyweight boxer, as are most non-super strong heroes in the comics. But Matt has this with all the benefits of the superhuman senses. He's got a ridiculously high tolerance to pain, and he's had a load of training in martial arts under the tutelage of Stick, a blind ninja with similar senses and skills. He taught Matt all about chi and control, which allowed him to fine-tune his powers. So how strong is Daredevil? Well, his most famous feats of strength include things like flipping a limo over relatively easily to stop a girl making a mistake and sending a dude back to his wife and kids. Presumably they're about to do something God doesn't approve of, like, I don't know, buy illegal fireworks or something. His Bezzy Foggy Nelson was trying to get in shape one time with a decently stacked barbell, and Matt lifts it up with one hand. And in another fight with some muscly men in Speedos, he uses a 400-pound weight as a weapon pretty easily, even chucking it across a room. He's got these billy clubs that he uses, and he's shown that he can throw them through concrete without a huge amount of effort. What about endurance though? As mentioned, he can take a beating. Not just physical either. Typhoid Mary immolates him one time. That means set on fire, if you didn't know, okay? But he comes back swinging. That had to hurt with all those superhuman senses. In the Brubaker and Lark run, he gets sprayed with hallucinatory gas, chucked off a building, hit by a car, smashed with baseball bats, takes an explosion to the chops, and is still okay. It's like fucking Home Alone. He takes getting electrocuted by Wakandan tech and then takes down a load of warriors. Oh, you think they used sound to take him down? Think again, he faked it, you cheeky devil. And oh, he's fast. Deflecting bullets is just absolutely standard for him. Look, he does it all the time. Seriously, all the time. He can't get enough of it. Look, there's another one. You'd think people would learn. Sometimes though, he doesn't need to dodge the bullet. One time he senses the laser dot on his head from a sniper and manages to get the jump on the shooter immediately. That's peak human speed if ever I've seen it. We know Bullseye is good at throwing shit super fast. Matt reacts and catches a card aimed at Elektra's throat quicker than she can. But what I love most about the character is his agility. When someone gets all their senses super heightened and is completely aware of where they are in space, they can just move like nothing else. And this means there's some lovely artwork showing him taking goons down with style. But look, while this is all mostly thanks to the radioactive ooze, he's also developed some serious skill through his training. He knows deadly pressure points to take down big goons, different ones that are great for some torture, and he meditates to help himself heal, something they bring up in the TV show. We're not talking Wolverine levels of healing, but maybe Captain America. And now let's talk scraps. There's the famous fight against 107 Yakuza members after he declares himself Kingpin. Some of them are hopped up on some performance-enhancing drugs, but he beats them all in under 3 minutes, dodging bullets, but not all of them, taking sword slashes, using a car aerial to ping one in the face, and all while wearing a presumably quite restrictive suit, shirt and tie. Hardcore. And again, a lovely example of how Daredevil has some amazing artwork. And look, we know Wolverine can handle himself. He's the best there is at what he does, etc, etc. But in the Enemy of the State storyline, when Wolvie is brainwashed and trying to kill Daredevil, and also be really jealous of what an absolute stud Daredevil is apparently, weird. But whilst Logan has the upper hand for a lot of the fight, getting in a few licks, albeit with a bit of help, Matt finishes him off with one of his favourite moves, take a dumbbell and smash it in his face. But look, Daredevil's a street level hero. He's never going to be taking down a Thanos or a Null, although he did electrocute himself once to beat Null's mind control. But when it comes to one-on-ones or taking on other street level villains, he's one of the best. When Hell's Kitchen is being overrun by crime for some real estate scheme, fucking real estate agents, they're the real supervillains.
Welcome to 49 Crescent Court, Warrandyte, a beautiful secluded part of paradise. I'm Steve from Barber Ridge Real Estate. I'm a massive cunt. Let's take a look inside.
Anyway, it's chaos and the cops aren't responding, and there are some low-level villains being paid to mess everything up. There's Rhino, Bullet, Bullseye, Crossbones, the Owl, and the frankly ridiculous Stiltman, which Matt duly acknowledges. And so Daredevil gets shot in the leg, scratched on the chest, but then just stands in the middle of them ready to take him down. And we're treated to some lovely artwork showing him assessing the situation with his super sense, and working his way through the bad dudes, doing his classic bullet deflection thing, choking out Rhino, deflecting more bullets, told you he loved it, until Bullseye realises he's fucked and just legs it. Amazing. So Daredevil's just fucking cool, and I've not even mentioned his Batman-esque control of his willpower, like when he can resist the power of the Purple Man, which he's done on a few occasions. But onto the screen versions, and let's start with 2003's Hollywood blockbuster with man of the moment Ben Affleck, hot off Pearl Harbor and Sum of All Fears, and right before Giggly, or is it Jiggly?
It's turkey time.
Huh?
Gobble, gobble.
What?
Now, famously a pretty average movie, 43% and 35% on Rotten Tomatoes, or 2.1 out of 5 on Letterboxd if you want the connoisseur's score. And if you use IMDb for your ratings, then please leave. The movie overall is painfully 2000s. Affleck's hair, all their clothes, the music in every scene, which I'll try and play, but probably won't be able to for copyright reasons. Just picture 2000s hip-hop rock, Nickelback, Hoobastank, NERD, and fucking Rob Zombie. Oh yes. There's even a G-rated love scene in front of a godforsaken log fire. At some point, this film has to actually be self-aware, right? They're doing that on purpose, surely. He's cast all right, though. Whitewashing aside, we've got Jennifer Garner looking ripped as Elektra. Unfortunately, like Affleck, can't really fight very well. Colin Farrell is in his Hellraiser prime, having the time of his life as Bullseye, and the late great Michael Clarke Duncan as Kingpin, with the appropriate physicality for the character, and Happy Hogan himself, Jon Favreau, as Foggy Nelson.
Ben, it's the first rule of Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. So you're not in the Fight Club. You're out of it.
Didn't see the movie. I'm sure it's a funny joke, but I didn't see it.
And that was pretty funny, to be fair. Could this be what drew him to Iron Man? Could this film be what kickstarted the MCU as we know it? So as mentioned, there are rumours swirling that this version of Elektra and Daredevil will feature in Deadpool 3. Will they mention the fact that Daredevil nearly had a bit of a fetish look with a PVC bandana or a hood in this movie? Why would they try that? Who knows? The interesting thing about the two adaptations of this character is that they kind of amped up Daredevil's power for this movie. We see him as a young lad right after the accident, and they do a decent job of showing what he senses. At this point, there's no control, mind you. We also see that the super senses allow him to be super acrobatic, jumping around scaffolding, holding a handstand with remarkable ease. That's not easy. In terms of his strength, when he's older, we don't see anything overtly impressive with his upper body strength. He chucks Bullseye out of a window, but not much else. In terms of his speed, Bullseye's shown that he never misses, etc, etc. But Daredevil's got the speed to dodge his shurikens and the skill to catch them all in his little club. I love these two just chucking shit at each other. In terms of the senses, I'd say it's on par. He can hear the heartbeat of Spiros Vondas from The Wire when he lies. God damn that smirk, Affleck. I'm trying to like you here. He can smell what's gone on at a crime scene.
Ammonia.
So what?
Over blood. Something else.
He can feel the minuscule imprints from where someone had written something on a desk. And he can spin and stop combination locks at the exact right spot. Not sure if that makes sense, to be honest. I also think that the fighting skill he shows is mostly on par. The scene where he takes down a bar full of people, sensing the bullets, all while keeping an eye on Spiros as he tries to escape, is pretty cool. And there's a nice scene where he jumps up the front of Bullseye's bike and boots him in the face. And you imagine that's something that he could do with those senses. But the music is so bad. I don't get why they thought this would be relevant to the movie at all.
Drop something.
A scene that also makes no sense is when Bullseye catches a load of glass in two neatly stacked piles. Okay, not sure how he's supposed to be able to do that. But then when he chucks them at Matt, he just does a load of back handsprings, and that means he evades them. He's not moved his body once out of a straight line, for crying out loud. I thought Bullseye couldn't miss. And then randomly they seem to have really amped up his ability to jump around. He's diving down the side of buildings like he's Link. I guess the platform is on cable, so it might absorb the impact. But this scene, he's making some ridiculous leaps across buildings like he's Spider-Man or something. It just takes me out of it a bit, and it's probably the dodgy effects for 2003, but it's just a bit out of sorts with the rest of his powers and what he's shown so far. How's he landing from that height? Alright, fine, it's to do with his sensors letting him land perfectly. I do like the camera shot here though, with Spiros taking a shot. Mark Steven Johnson is trying something here, good on him. The fight with Elektra I hate. It's Fox Studios' grubby exec saying, oh, how can we make them flirt with each other while fighting? And it looks crap. Affleck's smirk is just the worst. The music's shit and the kids all cheering him on is just embarrassing, as is Affleck's hair and their fighting ability. I do like the fight with Kingpin though. Like I said, Michael Clarke Duncan's one of the few actors who could portray the physicality of Kingpin, and I like how he just chucks him around. Then the water touch is nice and kinda makes sense, although in the comics it does the reverse. And just when I was about to absolutely rip the piss out of him for sliding along the floor through his legs, he deals with him in a pretty sensible way, kicking his fucking kneecaps in. Oof, god damn that would hurt. So on to the TV show. One of the best superhero adaptations around in my humble opinion. Oh, and we'll ignore the Defenders for now, thank you very much. This Daredevil is purposely more like the comics, and we get a lot more time with him to learn about him as a person and as a superhero. We've got a lot more Catholic guilt, probably not as much as the comics, and he's a bit more flawed as a person. He's also not leaping across the buildings like fucking Spider-Man. In terms of his strength, it's probably less than the comics. Makes sense, this is more grounded, as much as you can be in a world where giant space worm things invaded Earth. He's clearly strong in general though, but we're not seeing amazing feats, just some nice strict pull-ups, some decent form handstand push-ups. They're not easy, trust me. He does some things like snap this U-bar when trying to get into Melvin's workshop, and he catches Claire out of a window and holds onto a rope to swing him into a building. His speed is pretty normal as well. It's believable speed when it comes to deflecting things like throwing knives, dodging bullet fire, kicking arrows out of the air, dodging shurikens last minute. It's all stuff that someone with heightened senses would be able to do. But it's not done in a bullet time matrixy way, it's believable. Except when they've employed someone who does tricking to do the acrobatic stuff, and it just doesn't look like a practical way to dodge things. The senses are also definitely different from the comic. It's interesting that the TV show, especially in the first season, gave us barely anything in terms of how he sees the world. He describes it as a world on fire, and we get a little glimpse of it. But during the rest of the show, we see a load of the minute things he can pick up. He can read people ridiculously well, obviously good for being a lawyer. Tell him when they're lying from their heartbeats.
Ah, well, it's just a thought.
Smelling when wounds are open.
Taste copper in the air.
And hearing how severe bone fractures are.
I can hear your bones shift when you breathe.
They're nice touches and again, believable. Affleck. He can sense electrical fields, which indicate where secret doorways are. He notices when a security camera goes off, which means he's prepared for a syringe attack. Oof, nasty. He uses his sense in a much more believable way to open a safe lock. Not as flashy, but much more believable. There are so many ways the TV show showcases his abilities in subtle ways, but I can feel you drifting off, so we'll move on to the fights. And there's the obvious one-ers where he takes a load of people down, showing that he is human, he gets knackered, but he keeps going because he's hard as nails. It's the old boy hallway fight, but just not as cool and with more flips. Jumping ahead, but he's also great with his billy clubs in She-Hulk, taking down a room of goons just like his comic counterpart. And then there's the other one-er stairway fight, taking on a load of bikers while also keeping up with a descending elevator. Then there's the highly trained hand ninjas. He beats up a load of them in a hospital too, just constantly showcasing what a badass he is, using his clubs, the environment, although that ninja at the window could have dealt with that a bit better. Throughout the show, we see how tough he is. He can take a beating. And like the comics, it says he meditates to heal.
Helps with the pain. Healing faster.
Does that actually work though? I could literally Google it, but I'm busy. You can see a glimpse of what they're going to do with Daredevil in the She-Hulk series. A bit more CGI with his movements, which are only marginally improved since bloody Blade 2. And a lighter tone.
My ass remains unwhooped.
Will this be better? I'm not sure. Until they get the CGI to be realistic enough, it's always going to look a little bit fake, unfortunately. They struggle to get those human movements. But I am liking seeing them amp up Matt a bit, and the fight in the corridor's good. It's what Daredevil does best. And P.S. I approve of the Walk of Shame comedy moment. I don't care what you think. So yes, the film is 2000's ridiculousness. The TV show is much closer to the comics and still remains, despite a slight dip in Series 2, one of the best adaptations of the source material around. I, for one, am pumped for Born Again. Despite it sharing a name with a darker story in the comics, I've heard it will have that MCU lightness that they do so well. If they can strike the right balance between gritty realism and some humour, and showcases more of Daredevil's unreal fighting skill, then we're in for a treat. Well, there you have it. A return to our roots for 6 Degrees. Thank you to the various Daredevil respect threads for curating the info. And remember, if you like this, make sure you click the like button so that YouTube algorithm stops dicking me around. And smash the subscribe button. You will not be bothered too much, don't worry, I promise. There's more videos as well on the channel. Have a look at some of these. Very nice, eh? But for now, I'm Danny Baker. This is 6 Degrees, and I'll see you later.